Good morning and good afternoon to our participants that have already joined. My name is Audra Walter. I'm the marketing manager for Hands-On Labs. Just wanted to let you guys know we'll get started soon in the next couple of minutes. I wanted to give our stragglers some extra time to log in. So thanks for being with us, and we'll get started shortly. Okay, everyone, we're going to get started. We're 1 minute past the start time. Thank you for your patience. I'm going to kick off the webinar today by giving you some history of Hands-On Labs, what you expect to learn and the objectives of today's webinars, and then post-webinar notes along with a brief bio of our presenter, Dr. Ben Shoup. If you're not familiar with Hands-On Labs, we were founded 25 years ago by a chemistry professor named Peter at Colorado Mountain College. During a week of snowstorms, he quickly realized the need for course materials that would allow his students to independently perform the traditional laboratory experiments off campus. That's where HOL was born. Today at Hands-On Labs, we continue to be a pioneer in online STEM education, growing from lab kit production to a cutting-edge technology company focused on delivering quality science at a distance level to students around the world. In today's webinar, learn how to author custom lessons with the HOL Cloud. You can expect to learn the following objectives. You can build your own lessons from scratch with our platform, the HOL Cloud 1.2. It's compatible with tablets, cell phones, and desktops. You can learn how to structure your unique lesson with our platform's 3E approach to online pedagogy. That's exploration, experimentation, evaluation, and Dr. Ben will go into that a little more. You will learn how to create your own auto-graded questions, data tables, and essays, and you will learn how to add supplemental content like photos, videos, and text to help your students grasp complex science topics. So in a nutshell, yes, Hands-On Labs offers a wide variety of experiments that you can pick and choose from, but if we don't have what you're looking for, you can create it on your own. So all attendees for today's webinar will receive a $5 Starbucks gift card, complimentary of us, for their participation. We'll email that to you to the email you registered with by end of day, so keep an eye out for that. There will be a Q&A at the end of the 45-minute presentation, so please feel free to ask questions as they come to mind through the Q&A or chat box, and Dr. Ben will answer them at the conclusion. If you're new to Hands-On Labs, we'd love to send you a free eval kit so you can experience the materials in addition to the HOL Cloud platform. So we'll send a follow-up email with the recorded version of today's webinar in addition to a link where you can quickly request an eval kit should you want that. So before I pass the mic over to our chemistry subject matter expert, I'd like to share a bit about his background and role at HOL. Dr. Ben Shoup received his undergraduate degree from the University of Vermont in chemistry, And then he completed his PhD in organic chemistry at UC Davis. Dr. Ben has developed our GOB chemistry experiment library from the ground up and is involved in the continued development and improvement of the HOL cloud. So without further ado, I present you Dr. Ben Shoup.
Thank you, Audra, and welcome to today's webinar. Again, as Audra said, I'm Dr. Ben Shoup, and today I'll be talking to you about custom lesson authoring using HOL Cloud. This webinar will be a little bit different than, say, a normal webinar, where we're actually going to be more of like almost like a cooking show, where I'm going to show you how to do this as an instructor and then click on to a full finalized version of the different features we're going to talk about for custom author lessoning. So what is this exactly, right? So Audra went into a little bit of it beforehand, but with HOL, as we've described before, you can adopt any of our library of experiments in any disciplines ranging from chemistry to biology to physics. But with custom lesson authoring, it allows you to take those experiments and add in your own flair to it. So if you want to, the power of custom lesson authoring is that you can start a lesson just like we do here at HOL and build it from the ground up. It comes in 3 sections, just like any HOL experiment does that you adopt from us, which includes exploration sections, experimentation, and extension. These sections are set up based on our pedagogy, and so the exploration is how we, for HOL, test your students' inbound knowledge. So this is where we give them both the background of what they're going to learn in the experiment and what they need to know before they can do the experiment. Then after they complete all of that, they'll move into the experimentation section where they'll record data, they'll follow their procedures, they'll answer some questions based on the data they collected. And then finally at the end, after they complete both of those sections, they'll go into a section called extension, which tests all of their outbound knowledge. So this is where we have some auto-graded questions about every single topic that they were supposed to learn in the lesson itself, as well as some open-ended extension questions based on the material where they may have to take topics that they learned and move forward with that. So in this, the ability for you as an instructor is that it gives you the ability to make auto-graded questions. So you can just use this simply as a function. If you want to create a 100-question database of students to test their knowledge either at the beginning of your class or at the end of your class, these questions will be 100% auto-graded for you. They'll be multiple choice style. You can make them true, false. You can make them such as an A, B, C, or whatever. The benefit of that is just like any other question that you'd use on HOL, once it's finished and graded, it'll integrate directly into whatever your gradebook system is on HOL, and then that can export, if you have it integrated into your LMS, directly into your gradebook on your LMS system. Additionally, you can create your own type of data collection tools, such as data tables and essay questions that go along with any type of thing you want your students to ask. You can also write in, just like we do as HOL authors, answer keys for those exact questions, because data tables and essay questions cannot be auto-graded at this point. You also can allow, as Audra was saying, you can add in photos for figures or just demonstrating how to set up something, as well as videos that either you've taken or from an outside source. And then you can also use the text to help your students with that. Again, all of these features which we'll talk about are 100% ADA compliant based on how our platform is built. And then this comes with the access to any premium user that uses HOL Cloud. So the first section that we'll talk about today is the exploration section. And so this allows, the first part of this will have drag and drop questions to test your students' inbound knowledge. And that's how HOL runs it. You can do it however you like to, because this is completely custom to you and your needs. It also comes with the ability for you to write background text. And then also, again, there are auto-graded questions after every page that you can put into those experiments underneath the exploration section. You can add learning objectives for your students. None of these are required, but they are optional, but they are part of the whole process of custom lesson authoring. And each section of the 3 E's are not required for you to complete this experiment, nor for the student, but they do exist there, and you can leave them blank if you want. Also, if you do want to add a time component, you do have to put that in at the beginning so the student has an idea of how long they believe that this section should take them in any of the 3 sections, the experimentation, exploration, and evaluation. If you tell the student it's just going to say click through this, maybe a few minutes, or if you want them to go through a whole depth of information, this could take them 30 minutes or an hour. You just want to give them a heads up before they start so they have an idea of how long to do this. So if we switch over from the PowerPoint to this. So I've created an instructor view so you can kind of see how to actually do this in the instructor view itself. So this is my demo course that I've been created. So if you click on that, and here this will be a normal landing page for any instructor, right? This is a blank class for me, but it's just going to be used as the demo for this experiment. So if you click over here on the top left-hand corner, there's a portion called Custom Lesson Authoring, and this is where you can author these lessons that we're talking about. So if you click on that, it'll open in a new window for you. And here I've created one already. If you want to create a new one from scratch, you just click this button to create a custom lesson, and it would allow you to start from just a completely blank lesson. So if we start from where we're at, this is what it would look like initially. I just put in some minor information so that we have just a blank ready to go demo. So in here what you can see, this is the first section we talked about. This is exploration. So up here we have your time allocation, right? You can go in minutes or hours or whatever. You just want to give your student an idea of how long you should take. This is a required section if you fill out any of the information on this page. The next, this is where we have our learning objectives. So in this example, I'm just going to say we're going to create a live example for a webinar. You can have 1, you can have 0, you can have 10. Those are, as more you want to add, you just click this button to continue adding more learning objectives. Now you have to fill this out if you want to add another one, but that's just how it would work. The next section of this part, which is called Test Your Knowledge, if you're familiar with Cloud, and these are these drag and drop questions. So if you click on this, there's a different variety of different types of options for you as the user. The first type is such as a match list. This is where you can have, say, a term that you want your students to define or match a term with its definition. A classification, which is, say, you have 2 or 3 types of classifications, such as, say, you want to classify these molecules as an acid or a base or something like that. Again, you can have some kind of this type of question, these drag and drop, fill in the blank type of questions. You can have something where it's a molecular formula or chemistry formula. You can have an image drag and drop where you have an image such as a full cell on a slide and you want the student to label the different parts of that cell. Again, you can have it, because we can use any of these different such as in physics, you can have a math formula where you can put in and have the student do stuff like that. You can also use a chemistry formula image or an order list. So if we were to look at a match list and we click on this, this is what it would look like as a blank example. So here you can put the question written up here. Here you can have the 2 different types. So one would be the stimulus side and one would be the possible answers for the students. As you fill in these and click add, it will start to add those as possibilities down below here. So this is where your simulation, which you can have your definition or your term, and then this would be the answer you want the student to match. If you want them, if this is the correct answer, you can simply drag and drop to it so that it will auto grade for you once the student gets that correct. So if we go into an example of this, as I was talking about before, it's an example of a match type question, right? So this is completely already filled out. Just to demonstrate how this is, so over here we have 4 different terms, and then these are the definitions. So the student would be required to drag and drop these over in their live instance, and then for you, it would just automatically grade these questions for you. Another type that we talked about before is a classification, right? So here we have a list of molecules over on the left-hand side, and then in the middle, you want to tell the student, hey, classify them either as an acid or a base, and they just drag and drop them over. So if you don't want to do that, you just hit that cancel button at the top. If you want to look at a different type of question, we can go through some of those. So, such as a image labeling. So this is an example of an image label. So this image was created outside of HOL Cloud. It was then added into this type of drag and drop question. It's referring to this equation up here, which is added in using all the same features. And then what they could have is the students allowed to drag and drop onto this. So if you look deeper into it, as an example, this is actually, just an image that's been labeled with these type of drag and drop questions, and it's telling where the student to put those answers on them. If we move into our exploration section, so we move out of this, and the next section of that would be in the first page, which is on the left-hand side. You can click on the left-hand side to open these up. So this is where we, as HOL, typically use this as our background content. You can use this as, say, you want to put in some kind of your whole PowerPoint information or some text that you have that you like. You can add this in here. The benefit of that is that you can title it to tell the student what the topic will be of this, and then what you want, and in here is where all the information will go. On the left-hand side, you have 4 different tools that you can integrate into this text. So you can have your text, and it can be broken up by something. So if you want a photo, you can just simply drag and drop it below the text. You can click on this Browse Information, and that will allow you to then put in some kind of figure or an image or something that you have on, say, your desktop or something, and it will be allowed to have a text followed by an image, and then you, right below it, you can have more text below that. You can also put in videos, so if you have some kind of, you're demonstrating something to a student, such as a setup or, just some other type of simulation video that you've created, say, from your institution, you're also welcome to use those. And we'll get into more in equations in a second, but equations are, if you want to show the student how to do, such as demonstrating a chemistry equation from reactants converting to products, you can use this, or if you want to use this as an equation to demonstrate a math type equation, such as in physics or math, you can also use that. So for an example for this question, if you were to click on this, you just click on the Browse File, and if we move over, this is what a fully built out exploration page would look like. It has a title up here, it has all the information that goes along with it. As you move down, it has all that information. So this one specifically, the reason why I brought this up is because it has these equations already in them. So the equations, they always automatically center to the center of the screen, and if you click on that button, this is where you can come up with an equation. So this is where you can enter it in directly. Now, there is a little bit of a learning curve with the equations because we do use LaTeX as the programming language to create all this nice formulated, on top and on bottom. And there is this supplemental page. If you click on it, it will take you to a separate website and tells you how to learn how to do all these tools. For images, if we go to another page in this experiment, this is where you can have a figure. So, right, as we talked about before, this specific example has information about the mole and Avogadro's number, but down as we talk about the periodic table, here's an image of the periodic table. Again, you can label this, you can number the figures from 1 to however many number of figures you have. You can give the information a little title and describe what's in that figure. And over here, this is where you can write in your ADA compliance of how it would dictate to a student if they were using a screen reader. And over here, too, is any of the copyright information that you have if you want to include that. The next section, after we get done with our the exploration section of this, is the question time. So this is our multiple choice type question. So if you click on this, this will allow you to write your question here. You can use all of these formatting tools to add in. You can also add in equations. You can add images as well. And so you can ask a question for students. You can give them, and then you can give them multiple choice answers for that. So again, if you want to say you have a true-false type question, you can say, write your question up here. These are the 2 options for your students. And then what you have to do before you can save this is this box right here is grayed out, is you have to select the correct answer. And now you can save this live question. Additionally, in this, if you continue to go down, one of the benefits of our platform is that we have what's called Instructor Rationale. So down here, you can add to those 2 answers, say, this is your correct answer, because you got that correct. And then here you can say what the correct answer was, or why, or where to refer back to it. And it will simulate when the student gets the answer correct or incorrect, 2 different informations for them. So if we go look at a live instance of something like this, again, down here we have questions already pre-built for this, right? So we have a true-false question, which, if you go into that, again, this will have the same kind of thing we're talking about, right? As a true-false, true is the correct answer. And then down here, at the bottom will have the type of distractor rationale. So we're saying, great, you got this question correct, or no, this is a true statement, so you got the question wrong. And it allows the students to say, okay, so I can understand that. Again, if they have a multiple choice question like this, where it has 5 different answers, or an all of the above type of question, or none of the above, you're also welcome to do that. So the next section of this is the experimentation section. In this section, this is where you can have, if you want to do some kind of lab for your student, or some kind of pen and paper experiment, or however you would like to customize this. Again, you're allowed to give your student an idea of how long it's going to take them to complete this, so they can decide that amount of time they need to complete this experiment. And again, you can add in learning objectives, just like in the exploration section. So it's to give your students a kind of a guiding hand to what they're expected to learn in the upcoming exercise. So if we click on exercise, this would be how an exercise would look. Now I've put in some sample information just to show a little bit of that same stuff. But this is again where you can name the experimentation page. And then this is here is where you would want to list out both, say, the reason why you're doing this experiment, what the students expect you to learn besides the learning objectives, as well as any of the materials the students will need. So if you need the students to go get a pen or a pencil or some kind of, common items they have in their house, this is where you tell students, please gather these items before you go on with this experiment. Down here, we have two sections that we haven't seen before. We have our data collection, so we'll go into data collection in a second, and then this is where you can put your procedures. Now your procedures, because they're the text files, just like we talked about in the page section in the exploration section, they have the same 4 panels that they can also drag and drop into here. So again, they can have photos, which we use often for figures to have students so they can look at different setups for what we're exactly talking about using the items we have provided them in their kits. We can also add videos. So for us, we often use videos as a way as a core type of technique, such as how to use a scale, and things like that. And then also if you have an equation. So at the end, if you want your students to calculate something, you say, please use the following equation. You put the equation below, and that student can follow that information there. So data collection is another powerful tool for students. And for you. So this is where you can create data tables. So if you want your student to have, say, collect a data table, information in a data, up here is where you can label the name of it. And then this is also an important part on the right-hand side, which is where when that pop-up menu for your student comes up, this is what it will be labeled as. So you can label this as data table 1, and then this will be the information for what it is. Then here, this is where you can either propose a question or leave it blank. It's up to you. And then here is the ability for you to add the number of rows and columns, as well as any text that goes along with it. So if you make a blank table, you click on this button to generate it, and now it will create this. So now you have the ability to edit this text as 2 different rows and columns for that, and then this is the information that the student would have to enter. So that's what this tethered by the response is, as well as this is where you would put the correct answer here. So when you go back to grade these questions, because they're not auto-graded, if you have sample information from the data that you did, that'd be great, and that's how you can enter it in here. So if we go into an example, if this is an example we've built out for one of our lessons called Synthesis of Fragrance of Esters. And so guess this data table, has is a 5 by 7 columns. So here they have to fill in both the name of the compound, the aroma, and the solubility that it has in water. And so if you look inside of this, again, this is all built out for them. So these are all the responses you'll have to make, as well as the name for the answer key for you, as well as any of the aroma that goes along with that. And then you can continue building out the information there. Additionally, as we talked about before, and the reason why I pulled up this specific example is we talked about how you can have pictures in them. So in this example, this is how you say, I want your students to label something. This is all the 6 test tubes they're provided. This is how they label them. This experiment also has, at the bottom, a technique on how to waft it. So one of the parts of this experiment is that they have to determine the aroma of a fragrant ester. Now, wafting is a more challenging type of technique to teach a student. So if you have a video, such we've created, it allows the students to play that while it's in the actual section of that part of the experiment. You can put it at the beginning if you want, or anywhere in the middle of the text. Other type of data collections we have for them is, we have math tables, which allows them to put in information that's related to math, as well, so that it allows you to have superscripts, subscripts, cosines, things like that. Image annotation, so you can upload an image for your students. You can have them on there circle different things. You can define the number of colors that go along with that. Again, we talk about image labeling. So if you provide an image to a student, you can then have them label specifically on that image different parts of it. So again, we talked about how you gotta have a slide provided to your students, and then have them say, move a cursor over and label that specific part of that cell on the slide. Image upload is something that HOL uses a lot as a way to track the students that actually done the work in it. And so you can have them take a photo of themselves doing the experiment at the beginning and at the end. Also, the way we do a lot with ours is we have them take a photo of, say, some part of the results, and they have to put their name and date as part of it so that it can all be a part of that. So if you go to an image upload, again, you can propose the question, again, having the name of the photo and on both sides. And then here is where you would add a question, the actual photo into that. And then down here, something we haven't talked about before, is where you can have your sample answer. So if you have a sample answer that you want to grade against, you can upload that using the image right here and have it as an answer key. So when you go into your gradebook function later, you don't have to go and compare somewhere else. It's already built into the cloud for you. And then again, something we haven't talked about, but this will carry over to semester for you. So if we look at an example of that, in this experiment right here, the student is required to take a photo of what their test tube looks like at the beginning of the experiment and upload it. So if we look inside the built image of this, right, the student is required to upload an image, and then down here is where the answer key is for them, and so for you. And then the final part of this, besides the procedures, which are just the step-by-step instructions that you will have to write out yourself. Again, we talked about you can add in photos, videos, equations, and simulations to go along with that, is these exercise questions. So exercise questions are typically how we build them out. If we go back to the example we were just talking about, at the very, very bottom of that is where these essay questions exist. And so this is where you can write a question about the data or the information that the student collected during that experiment. So this can be, say, please refer back to data table 2, compare the results in the 2 columns. What did you get from that information that you did? So if we look at that example here, we have different questions saying, based on the results you got in this experiment, how do you determine the difference or the successful reaction occurred between aspirin and water? And again, this is all the information. So if you click inside that, again, here's your question. And then down here, again, as we talked about, is where you can have your sample answer for those questions. So that again, and when you go to grade these questions, the answer will be there for you. And then if you want to save this or whatever, you hit the save button right here. And if you want to get out, you just hit cancel. So the final section of this whole 3 E's, right? So we've already talked about exploration, experimentation, and evaluation. So evaluation is the last section, so we'll click on that. And so what this will show, just so you have an idea, is the time you expect your students to do this, as well as any of the learning objectives from both the exploration and the experimentation section that you already put in. It's important to note that when you do, if a student does get to this point, it will lock them out of the previous 2 sections. It'll give them a little pop-up saying, hey, do you want to proceed? You will no longer be able to look at the experimentation and exploration while you complete this. So in that section, what it gives you the ability is to test your students, outbound knowledge of whatever they've done in your lesson. So in the competency review section, these questions are built just like we talked about for question time in the exploration. And these are multiple choice type questions. And again, because these are multiple choice, they are auto-graded for you. So again, you can have your question proposed here, and then you can add your different, options for answers, such as A, B, C, D, or however you want. So again, you'll be able to click on the correct answer, and now you'll be able to save that as a question. Again, just because they're built just like the question time questions. So again, you can go score down. You can choose the number of points that it's going to be worth, and then add any distractor rationale to that response. So if you say, hey, you got this right, this is where you should have seen it in the experiment, good job, go back and review it if you want to, or hey, you got this information wrong, this is where you saw it, please review this, do you have an idea of where it was? So if we want to look back at an experiment like that, in this experiment, we have the same kind of thing. So we have a whole bunch of questions that test both anything they learned in the exploration section as well as the experimentation section. They're all different types of questions. So we have a lot of, say, true, false. We have a fill-in-the-blank type question, which you have, sample answers down here, and all the way on and so forth. And again, too, one of the things we talked about is equations. So you can build in equations into this if you want the students to use the data you provide them in these type of questions and then solve for that answer. The final thing that we'll talk about in this section is after you can do this, we back out, is go to the extension questions. So extension questions are how we test the students' outbound knowledge and grasping it into, say, how they would apply this knowledge that they've gained throughout these exercises. So this is an essay type question or another type of question. This will look just like the questions, the data collection questions that we had in the experimentation. But if you want to, you can have an essay question for them where you write out the question type here. And if we click back, what a fully finished one will look like, it'll look like this, right? So we have a fully written out question here for them. They'll be able to write their answer into this part. And then down here, just like all the other type of non-auto-graded questions, you can list out your answer for what you believe the student should come close to, so when you go to grade it later. And you can choose any other type of question. You're not limited to the essay questions. There's, as we saw, 6 different types of data collection options for them. So that's the whole different 3 sections of custom lesson authoring. So we'll switch back to the PowerPoint. So as we noted before, that this allows you, just like any other HOL stuff, once you finish and publish this lesson, it'll go back into that lesson list that we saw at the beginning, and you can order it in any order that you want. Again, after you do that, these lessons will be part of any of the LMS once you plug in those course hooks for you. So it doesn't matter what type of LMS you have, it will go into yours. Again, as we talked about a little bit earlier, all of our platform is ADA, so you don't have to worry about that. You just have to put in the correct information. So if you want to have a video that you've created, you can have closed captioning and dictating go along with those videos. You just have to put in the correct files for that. And as well as any of those image labeling, we have the ability for screen reader options, as well as dictating to the students what's in those actual images. So we've gotten to the end, and so the question you probably have now is, what is the application of, and why would you want to use custom lesson authoring in comparison to just using what HOL has? I like to look at this as a tool that you can do hand in hand with all the experiments you have in the HOL library. So one of the best ways you can think about this is you can use it as a lab practical if you want, right? Because we have all those auto-graded questions, you can create a data bank that you have at the end of, say, between 10 or 100 or however many questions you want to write out and write all the answers for at the end, and just use that, at the end section of the 3 sections in the evaluation section, and test the students' outbound knowledge at the completion of the course. You can also use it at the beginning of the course if there's something you want to tell the student on what you're expected to learn. It can also, if you have a lab that you like or some kind of pen and paper experiment that you already do, say on campus or your students already do, and you want to continue to just add that to the other experiments that HOL provides for you, you can convert any existing labs that you have to the cloud. And then the benefit of that is that every semester and every time you pull in this course, it will carry over. So you only ever have to do the upfront legwork once, and then it will continue to keep working forward. It also allows you to continue to improve that and edit it and make it going forward so you can make it a best experience for your students. And then, again, as I told you, you can build an entire lab from scratch with all 3 sections and make it look as pretty as you want. So again, just because we're a part of HOL, we have the ability for you to talk to tech support and customer service. So if you have any questions about custom lesson authoring, please feel free to call in on these numbers or talk to your current sales rep about this, and we'll be able to get in contact with one of us in the science team to help you with any of the troubleshooting you may have. Now, one last thing about this is that we will be moving forward, creating some kind of series. I know I went through all of these features really fast, because there's a lot of them, but the future of this will be that we will be breaking down each of these different sections, showing you how to build them, using a screen recording in a video blog series coming up. And that will be able to, so you'll be able to get that information once it's ready, and we'll be sharing with you guys if you're interested. Again, I thank you for your time, and I'll hand it back over to Audra, and then we'll answer any questions you have.
All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I know it was a lot to process. Like Dr. Ben said, we will be holding future webinars and having a vlog series that will dive deep into each of those sections' complexities. So you'll get 45 minutes to learn the different things you can do with exploration, the same with experimentation and so on. So keep an eye out for that. let's see what kind of questions we have now. Okay, just a couple here. Let's see what we got. Okay, so in the experimentation section, in talking about procedure, can you insert reference data table into the procedure instead of image, equation, video, simulation, etc.?
Yeah, so if this is information that you already have and you have already formulated into an actual table yourself, you can just save that as a JPEG. Say it's in a PowerPoint or something like that, you convert it to a JPEG, and then upload it as an image. So that would be a way for you to do that. If you wanted to create a data table from scratch using the platform, if you already have one that you have, you'd have to reconvert it using that data table that we showed you in the experimentation section specifically.
I hope that answered your question. And we have another one coming in. Are there biology labs available? Also, what is the cost for HOL? So for this question here, Robin, after the webinar concludes, I will send everyone a recording of the webinar in addition to a link to sign up or request a free eval kit. One of our representatives will reach out to you and just talk to you a little more about what's included in the kit, make sure you get it to the right address. And yes, we do have biology labs. We have 9 different science disciplines in our experiment library, and biology is one of them. Out of those 9 disciplines, we offer over 750 experiments. So you have a huge library to choose from, but as Dr. Ben said, if it's what you like to teach is not included somehow, you're not limited to what we have. You can customize it. You're welcome, Rebecca. Let's see what other questions we have. Anonymous, are there template questions we can use and manipulate to generate our own questions? Good one.
At this point, not at the moment. It is definitely something we can look into in the future. But hopefully with the video blog series, we'll show you, that's coming up after this, we'll be showing you how to create those questions, and then you can kind of follow that style to create whatever type of questions you need to fit your needs.
Another question, how to download gradebook data?
Yeah, so that's something you probably want to reach out to your representative, but it is downloadable. It also will, if it's linked on your LMS system, the gradebook will automatically go into whatever your gradebook function is on your LMS. So if you have Moodle or you have Blackboard or any of those, it will automatically get exported upon you fully grading that experiment.
Harry has a question. Will you have a demo lab available for us to view and try online? That's a great question. Everyone who is in attendance today will receive either an email or a call from our account representatives, and they'll be able to schedule a demo with you and walk you through our HOL cloud, and that way it's a one-on-one mini demo and a little tour of our platform, which is truly a powerful system to use. See if we have any other questions over here. Okay, that looks like it's all for the questions. I'll give you guys a few more seconds to type in any questions that you have before we depart ways. So go ahead and think if there was anything that you might need clarification on. Okay. Thank you so much, you guys, for joining us today. Like I said, we'll follow up with your free $5 Starbucks gift card, so keep your eye on your email for that. Also, I'll send out a follow-up email personally with a link to the recorded webinar today, and then a couple options to either schedule a demo or request an eval kit so you can see the material component in our turnkey solution. So with that said, thank you again, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you.